Deep within the Imperial Palace upon Holy Terra, Malcador the Sigillite and Regent of Terra received word from the Shattered Legions. Malcador sighed and shook his head in sorrow. How could such a thing happen, he asked himself. He was disturbed by Perturabo and Mortarion. The massive Primarch of the Iron Warriors informed Malcador that Mechanicum had refused to give aid to either side in the upcoming conflict, declaring themselves neutral. Malcador nodded solemnly. He began to wonder how much worse could things get at this point. But at least this would also mean that the Separatists would also be running low on supplies. Mortarion the Death Lord, Primarch of the Death Guard, then posed a question. He asked that if the traitor supplies were low enough, would they launch an assault on Mars first, to try and capture a staging ground from which they could assault Holy Terra. If Rogel Dawn's forces were desperate enough, they might just very well do that. Malcador then decided to enact an extremely dangerous plan. He ordered that the Death Guard fleet take up orbit around Mars. While they would not request aid from the Mechanicum, they also needed to deny such a huge centre of resources from falling into the hands of the enemy. Mortarion asked if such an action could trigger an armed response from Mars, but Malcador quelled his fears, stating that as long as they did not fire upon nor set foot upon the Red World, the Mechanicum would be content in being left alone. But this raised another issue. By defending Mars in such a way, it would starve Terra of warriors to protect it. Malcador agreed, but stated that they had little to no choice in this matter. One of the main problems with warp travel that both sides encountered in this conflict is that it was unpredictable. But this unpredictability proved beneficial for the Loyalist forces, as two fleets entered the Sol system. The Lunar Wolves, led by Horus Lupercal, and the World Eaters, led by Angron. Seemingly through sheer blind luck, they had arrived ahead of Rogel Dawn's forces. For that, Malcador gave a sigh of relief. Finally, some good news. As the Word-Bearers finished purifying the system from the taint of corruption, they began to make their way to Terra. Before they made the warp jump, the flagship of the Legion, the Divinitas Lex, received a transmission from the Scion of Prospero. Lorgar was surprised to see Thousand Suns so far out into the eastern fringes. He was even more surprised to see that the trio of Thousand Suns vessels was accompanied by a Space Wolf ship. Azek Araman and Bjorn explained their unusual partnership to Lorgar, and requested to join with the Word-Bearers' fleet for strength in numbers. Lorgar smiled and agreed. Lorgar then gave a great inspirational speech to the ragtag fleet, bordering upon turning into a religious sermon, such was his passion and vigour. The traitors will be purged. Those loyal to the Emperor and the Imperium will find glory, and those who have turned from his light shall be wiped from existence and memory. With rapturous applause, even from the stoic warriors of the Thousand Suns, the fleet marched to reinforce Terra.